بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Mufti Taqi Usmani sahab, he's mentioning a story regarding a person by the name of Khaja Azizul Hasan Ghawri. So Khaja Azizul Hasan rahmatullahi alayhi, he was just like a normal, he was actually a tax collector. So in India, when the English were ruling before independence, before they removed the British colonizers from India, like they were all the main jobs the British would have from England, and the highest post you could get for a local Indian, a Muslim or Hindu, was a tax collector. So he had that post. It was really high post. It was the highest post you could get in the government. But in that job, like he wasn't feeling comfortable with that job because the way it was. So he then met Mawlana Sharif Thani rahmatullahi alayhi. He spent a lot of time with Mawlana Sharif Thani rahmatullahi alayhi. And it basically changed his life. And he was a poet. And if you read his poetry, like you could tell, just because a person's words, person's words depicts what he really is. Yes. So he's got a few really famous poems. I don't know if those of you know Urdu. One of his famous poems, that one that ends in Misra. Ye dunya ibrat ki ja hai tamasha nahi. It's a really long poem. He talks about death, and you could tell that. And you've got another one where he talks about dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hardam, was it? I can't remember the one about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dhikr. So that just to think those words, you can tell how. So he was a noble, he was an alim, he wasn't a scholar, he was a tax collector. But when he spent time in the company of the ulama and the sulaha, his life changed like such an extent. And he left that job and then he became a teacher at school. So he was a really, so when he changed his life, then he, like, you couldn't tell that he's not a Maulvi sahab. He looked like a Maulvi. So once he was traveling in the train. So when he's traveling in the train, because he's like a Maulvi sahab, so there's probably two gentlemen, two people dressed in suit and tie. They were sitting in the train. They started to speak. They were probably Indian as well, but they started speaking in English. But he was well educated. So when he started speaking in English, he paused them. He said, "Stop. I think that you're speaking in English because you think I don't understand English. I understand English. So if you want to say something, I will be able to understand you." You understand? So this is the Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi. He's mentioned a hadith. Man istama'a ila hadithi qawmin wa hum lahu karihun. And then he goes that if a person listens to people's conversation, he spies on people's conversation, then it's as if then punishment is mentioned. This is impermissible. So if you're sleeping, you're lying down, you probably think you're sleeping, you don't really understand the language, spying on somebody's thing, this is not permissible. You got somebody's letter to read the letter without permission, somebody's email without permission. If it's not a shared email, all of these things are impermissible. Yes? If somebody thinks you don't know the language, but there's another thing as well, that should you speak in a foreign language when somebody else is there? For example, you know Arabic, you know Urdu, you know Gujarati, and two people are there, they can't understand. So if this conversation will make them feel uncomfortable, that what's he talking about? Even that's not permissible. Yes? And if somebody, you understand that, they're speaking something privately and you think there's a private conversation, you can hear them. It's the adab and respect that you should do this. And along with this, you shouldn't interfere, or you shouldn't like try to privy and spy on people. Yes? Sometimes it happens as well, is like you have to have both ways when you have husband and wife. Like you shouldn't be so like intrusive that like, you know, trying to find out everything that's going on. And then you shouldn't be so like, why are you hiding things in the first place? So it works both ways. Like you have a balance that I need to see your phone. Like, don't be so like intrusive on somebody's life. And the other way is like, okay, you just want to see here, nothing to see, nothing to hide. If you have something to hide, then it's a problem. Who are you talking to? What are you doing? Something to hide? It's an open book. You understand? So what we should do is, even for example, trying to get somebody's password, hacking, to hack somebody's email, forgot their password and go and read their private stuff, it's not permissible. You understand? It's all impermissible actions. However, exempt from this is, who's exempt from this? If you're in charge of somebody else's tarbiyah, you have a parent, you have a teacher, then it is your duty to make sure that you are, teachers are a bit less, but parent especially, you have to be aware of what the children are doing, what their history, and if they're using all these additional stuff to hide their history, you know all of this. That time you don't use that, I shouldn't be interfering in their lives. You have to have trust. Again, it's a very fine relationship. There's no guidelines saying this is the limit, this is not the limit. But between having too much trust, but you just let them go freely, and being so intrusive that they just can't wait to get away from you, but you're so like intrusive in their lives. And you have to remember, I was saying as well, in hadith, in Quran, in adab, whatever you want to do, you'll find a hadith to suit you. whatever you want, whatever mindset. Like for example, I think in Abdul Kapod Rahmatullah alayhi, he used to say that when people become like misled, do not say, oh, the Bible says this. Have you seen Muslim come say the Bible says this? The Tawrat says this. What does it say? The Quran says this. The Hadith says this. So the guidance doesn't come from the Bible. It doesn't come from the atheist textbook. It comes from the Quran itself. It comes from the Hadith itself. All of these things you can interpret to suit however you want to see. All the firq that have existed in the Islamic history, whether it's they become kafir, or whether they become fasiq, or whether they're just ideologies. All of these people, they use Quran and Hadith. Nobody uses the Bible or the Tawrat or some kind of other books, or Zeus's books, or I don't know, Plato's books. They just use the same Quran and Hadith and try to interpret it. So even when you talk to somebody, every parent, every person, every alim, every scholar, they think that I've got it perfect. Yes? If you ask anybody, they will think, oh, my balance of Islam is the perfect balance. I'm not too strict, I'm not too lenient. The person who's slightly strict to me, he's too strict. And the person who's below me, he's too lenient. That's what everybody thinks. The parents say, oh, I give my child, the child goes up to 1 o'clock at night time, oh, I give him the perfect amount of leeway. That's that they have in their mind. So you have to be very, very careful. If you're not willing to accept, or not willing to think and say, no, I could be wrong here, let me just reanalyze, reassess, think over something, then you'll never improve. You'll never get any better, or you'll start slipping up. So you always have to be, so when if you're parenting, you're always learning. When your relationship with husband and wife, you're always learning. If you think, oh, what I'm doing is right, then you never change. As a teacher, if you think, oh, the way I'm teaching right now is it, I'm not going to listen to anybody else. You can always think, I think, oh, the way I'm speaking is right. I always have to get reminders, speaking too fast. Okay, slow down a bit. Every couple of months, start speaking fast again. Okay, slow down a bit. And every week, slow down a bit. Because if you think, no, that's fine, I'm speaking right, I don't speak any faster, any slower, then you never get any better. Or you never change, you never improve. So you have to have the open mind, enough open mind to think, let me reassess myself. Is my parenting skills, where am I lacking? The way I'm speaking to my children and my wife, how can I reassess that? The amount of what I'm doing at work, what I'm doing here. If you don't reassess yourself, then what will happen? You just stagnate, and really there's no stagnation. It's either up or down. Do you understand? So it's very, very important that you analyze yourself and be open to improvement. Yes? So as I said, every parent will think, oh, I've got the perfect balance. And the other parent I'm looking at, they've got it wrong. And even in life as well. So I've got the perfect amount of things. So if you have that approach, you'll never get any better. So regarding parenting, you need to be, and parenting in our time is very, very challenging. It's completely different to how our fathers and grandfathers, the fitna that we're going through is so changed. So you have to be very, very aware. So many of you adults and here and elders, looking after your children and keeping an eye on them, it's like it's very fundamental. You have to learn all the skills. You have to, I mentioned this many times before, that Abdullah, somebody came to Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu and he was praising him. He said to him, this person is so pious, he doesn't even know what fitna is. He doesn't even know what fitna is. I mean, he's so far away from fitna. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala said, if he doesn't know what fitna is, he's more likely to fall into it. You have to understand fitna. As a parent, you need to know, like, you can't follow, so many things are changing, but you have to have the idea of what's going on outside. What's going on in your neighborhood? Where is drugs being sold? You need to know this. In our area, where is drugs being sold? Who are my children's friends? Where they're hanging out? What do they do? Which websites are they visiting? This is important. This is farah. This is the ibadah. When you sitting with your children, talking with them, this is ibadah. This is a great ibadah. Getting into their minds, understanding what they're going on, what they're thinking about. Because sometimes you remember that we just think that we just take it for granted that what I believe and what I think, I'm a mu'min and I'm a wahid, I believe in Allah. So therefore everybody else, my kids obviously believe in Allah. But have you actually spoke to them regarding Tawheed? You believe, you have this aqeedah that Allah exists. The Prophet is the most beloved of all of mankind. So your teachers, the ulama, the bayan, you've heard, that has proved to you and convinced you that the Prophet is the greatest of all mankind. But have you done any effort to instill this in your kids, in the people who are associated with you? It's not it doesn't transfer by genes, because you believe it, somebody will believe it as well. You have to put effort. You understand? As I mentioned before, sometimes you hear like a story, you guys will hear a story over and over again. But there's a story that the people before haven't heard. So you have to repeat that story, repeat that information, so it sits in somebody's mind for a new time. Or you repeat the information again, so that it's re-emphasized. So you have to put in effort. Deen doesn't just transfer naturally. It transfers via words. It transfers via amal. So you have to take time out and speak. You have to take time out and do things, practically demonstrate what religion is. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us ability to act upon this. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.